Hi, I'm Tab Hunter, and welcome to the best of Hollywood.
The year was 1954, and America's love affair with the movies was still going strong. 3D proves a passing fad, but CinemaScope seems here to stay. In this episode of The Best of Hollywood, creatures attack from the sea.
Hello.
And Hitchcock strikes twice with deadly precision, while John Wayne flies high.
Get a hold of yourself, you yellow.
Bing Crosby, Lucille Ball, Audrey Hepburn, and Judy Garland all delight audiences too. These stars and more are waiting in 1954, so let's dim the lights. The movies are about to begin. Following on the heels of 1953's biggest hit, The Robe, 20th Century Fox released a sequel in 1954. It followed the adventures of the first film's slave character, played again by Victor Mature. The critics panned the film, but audiences loved it, proving CinemaScope was a popular draw.
You are there in the arena as you become a thrilling, breathing part of the deadliest sport ever devised by man. Life and limb against sword, net, trident, and devouring beasts. You are there as the wanton temptress, Messalina, pits her beguiling beauty against one man's mortal weakness.
We need no gods, you and I. We have each other for as long as we live. There's no past, no future. Only now.
You are there amid the wild bacchanalian orgies when Rome was in all its might and magnificence, in all its decadence and desire. You are there as Demetrius seeks the word of God and finds his faith reborn.
I've had a terrible dream, Demetrius. I can't remember.
Don't try it.
And then it changed, and I saw Jesus, just as you described him. He stood there and smiled at us. Was it true? Did he really come?
Yes, he came.
I'd like to ask you a rather pointed question, if I may. Just how far should a wife go to help her husband land a job that pays $125,000 a year? I brought these three men to New York in order to choose one for the job. What will their wives do? And what won't they do to influence my selection? Just observe this wife's technique.
I'm very grateful to you, Mr. Gifford. And I'm sure there'll be many opportunities for me to prove that to you.
You see what I mean. And that's only half of it. You're in for a world of surprises in this wonderful woman's world.
Clifton Webb at his funniest as the tyrannical car tycoon. June Allison at her cutest as Kansas City Katie. Ben Heflin at his best as the husband who had but one wife to give, but not to the whole country. Lauren Bacall at her wittiest as the wisecracking Philadelphia Philly. Fred McMurray at his merriest as the super salesman who tried to parlay an ulcer into $1 million. Arlene Dahl at her most seductive.
Woman's world.
Well, there were three of us, June Allison, Betty Bacall, and myself, and Jean Negulesco was the director. And then we had wonderful leading men, of course. It was a terrific story. For 1954, which the year it was filmed, it was the car that it was about. It was about the automobile industry. The car that was built today would be not out of place on the highway. So it really was before its time. And working with Betty and June was an experience, because I'll tell you why. The director of the film, Jean Negulesco, who had been a cameraman first and loved beauty and loved surrounding himself with beautiful clothes, and all the actresses that he worked with had to look just tops, fashion-wise and beauty-wise. So he spoiled us that way, and Charles Lemaire did a fabulous wardrobe for all of us. But he was a flirt, first of all. So he would flirt with us, each one in a different way. And at the end of the film, he made, because he was a fabulous artist, he made a sketch, a line sketch of us, each of us, in our roles, and would put a little sentence at the bottom before he signed his name. Well, I have that picture today, which I will show you. It is fabulous. It is wonderful. Betty got one, playing her character. June got one, and I got one, and we all three still have that as a memento, not only of Jean Negulesco, but of Woman's World. We really had a great time on Woman's World.
But, darling, don't you see? If I did show him a little attention, it was only to encourage his interest in you for the job.
Now listen, I'll get to the top, but I'll get there on what I've got, not what you've got.
What these men won't do for a job and what their wives will do will keep you roaring from start to finish.
Actresses like to be treated very special and very individually, and Jean managed to do that. How, I don't know, but he did. It was very amusing to watch him, because he'd call one of us, invite us to lunch one day, and then the next day he'd call one of the other two to invite to lunch, and never the three of us together. So we were, I think he did that on purpose. I think he sort of pitted us one against the other. It's amazing that we remained friends over the years, because I think he thought our characters would be more well-rounded if we had that little edge to our character, you know.
Another critically dismissed epic, The Egyptian ended up one of the highest-grossing films of the year.
The Egyptian is the most distinguished production in the career of Darryl F. Zanuck. A spectacle of spectacles from the greatest of bestsellers. It is the story of Sinuhe, the Egyptian, who forsook eternity and everlasting life for the perfection of love. Starring Gene Simmons as Merit, the tavern girl. Victor Mature as Horemheb, the general. Gene Tierney as Bakataman, the princess royal. Michael Wilding as Akhenaten, the pharaoh. Bella Darby as Nefer, the Babylonian temptress. Peter Ustinov as Kapta, the thief. And Edmund Purdom as Sinuhe, the Egyptian.
Marlon Brando was supposed to play the lead, but bowed out at the last minute. Lucky unknown Edmund Purdom stepped in. Purdom didn't make too much of an impression, though. His starring days in Hollywood wouldn't last much longer than The Egyptian's release. Hollywood legend John Wayne never had such a problem. He remained a star for decades, and the high and the mighty kept him on top.
One by one, they boarded the plane. The most bizarre group of people ever thrown together by fate on the most exciting adventure that ever spanned an ocean. There was Dan, who had used up his 9 lives and was starting on number 10. May, who could talk to a man without saying a word. Lydia, who was as low as high society can get. Sullivan, whose nerves of steel were beginning to rust. Sally, who lived in a world of whistles.
Ed, who had taught himself to face disaster with a smile. Pardee, a heart full of courage wrapped up in a bundle of nerves. Childs, a wealthy collector of other men's wives. Flaherty, who thought he could hide his fears in a bottle. Agnew, a coward, until he held a gun in his hand. Spaulding, a right girl who had to be nice to some wrong people. Yes, the brash and the brave, big-timers and two-timers, the chaste and the cheats, morning glories and nighttime women, suddenly transformed by a single stroke of fate into people with all pretense gone and every violent emotion turned loose.
You're quite a conqueror with the ladies, aren't you? That should interest you, madam. I've had enough of it. What's the matter, you guys?
Hey, what's this all about?
Crazy? Break it up!
Crazy,
He's got a gun! The bottle on
Yeah, homie, pull the bottle, quick! Welby, check your final position. I'm gonna take her down.
Wait a few more minutes, Skipper.
Do as I say!
But it looks like...
Do as I say!
Give him a few more minutes.
I've already waited too long. Here we go.
No, we don't. Get a hold of yourself, you yellow.
The High and the Mighty was a hit with critics, too. It gained 6 Oscar nominations, including one for Best Director. Another CinemaScope hit was Three Coins in the Fountain, a frothy romance about 3 girls on the loose in Rome. It scored critically, too, winning 2 Oscars for Best Cinematography and Best Song.
3 coins in the fountain, each one seeking happiness, thrown by 3 hopeful lovers. Which one will the fountain bless?
All the splendor of St. Peter's, Baroque palaces, the Borghese gardens, the grand canals of Venice, the glories of Rome. And in this eye-filling setting, the worldly, wicked, wonderful story of 3 American girls who tossed 3 coins into the fountain, as the Romans do, and fell head over heels in love, as women do.
I have a day or 2 left before I have to go back. Would it help you at all if we spent them together?
Anita.
CinemaScope also helped turn 7 Brides for 7 Brothers into a smash. The film also gained several Oscar nominations, winning one for Best Musical Score. Today, it stands as one of MGM's finest musical moments.
Sweet on those girls, why don't you do something about it? Why don't you go marry him?
Oh, sure. Go marry him as easy as that.
You know they'd never let us marry him now in 1,000 years. And do like the Romans did with the Sabine women, or Sabine women, or whatever they call them. Those Romans were in the same fix you're in. They was opening up new territory, and women were scarce, just like here. And there was these Sabine women down in town. So what'd the Romans do? They went down there and they carried them off.
So then what happened?
Gather around, I'll tell you. They never did return their plunder. The victor gets all the loot. They carried them home by thunder to rotundas small but cute. Now let this be, because it's true, a lesson to the likes of you. Wrap it up like them there Romans do, or else they'll be your tent. Oh, yes, them women was sobbing, 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 fit to be tied. Every muscle was throbbing from that riotous ride. Oh, they acted angry and annoyed,
but secretly they was overjoyed.
You might recall that when corralling your steers. Oh, 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 them poor little dears. Oh, yes, them women was sobbing, sobbing, sobbing women. Them sobbing women.
While CinemaScope dominated box offices in 1954, it didn't rule alone. Paramount had its own version of the widescreen process called VistaVision.
In Paramount's optical and electronic laboratories, where scientists have been working to develop a film that would combine spectacular size with complete focus across the screen, to eliminate fuzziness and distortion, to reproduce every scene photographically as clearly as the human eye would see it. A new type of camera, the VistaVision camera, was the result. Using this, the new VistaVision film negative, twice as big, twice as clear as the old-style negative, bringing brilliance and glowing colors never achieved before. White Christmas was the first motion picture to be filmed in VistaVision. And what could provide a more perfect debut than this great Irving Berlin musical starring the greatest names in show business? Bing Crosby, Danny Kaye, Rosemary Clooney, and Vera Ellen.
VistaVision, plus stars Bing Crosby and Danny Kaye, made White Christmas the biggest hit of the year.
Hey, bluebirds, singing a song. Nothing but bluebirds, bluebirds all day long.
Bing and Danny are bringing you a bonus of holiday cheer early this year with the music, the magic of one of the greatest entertainment hits of all time. Bing and Danny in a joyous show business story of a couple of guys who have made good and now want to make better.
You got everything you
Yes,
want,
I'm
except
loaded.
the most important thing.
What's this?
A girl.
I'll get around to that one of these days.
My dear partner, when what's left of you gets around to what's left to be gotten won't be worth getting whatever it is you've got left.
When I'm worried and I can't sleep, I count my blessings instead of sheep. No, it won't be long before we'll all be there with snow.
Snow, snow. I want to wash my hands, my face, and hair with snow. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas with every Christmas card I
Two of comedy's biggest stars, Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis, returned to screens in a tuneful film called Living It Up. It was another big hit for the team, but tension was already pushing them apart. You wouldn't know it to look at them here.
And the west side, 134th Street.
They're the biggest sensation that ever hit big-hearted New York. Because thanks to that beautiful sob sister, Janet Leigh, everybody in town thinks Jerry's going to die of radioactivity in a few days. But just between us, the kid's a lovable fake. Just look at him kick up his heels with that shimmying bombshell from Broadway, Sherry North.
Dean, who I think most people that you speak to will tell you Dean Martin is the funniest of the two. But to define that a little more precisely, he had the wit. He was always dropping very witty things. Never obligated you again, never pushed it, never in your face, but it was always there, and my ear was always tuned out. What'd he say? Because it was always something, a little jewel, you know. Whereas Jerry, you know, you were lucky to survive the day without having your clothes ripped and your foot stamped and your, you know, it was total bedlam. I only went to lunch with Jerry Lewis once because when we came in, he first tossed coins in the water that the girl was trying to pour. Then he picked up the salt shaker and all poured down. He said, I got a terrible cold today. And it just kept going on like that until the table was turned upside down. The food was all over the floor. I didn't know if I had eaten, what I had eaten. And every time after that, when Jerry would talk about lunch, I always found something else that was terribly, terribly important for me to take care of at that time. So it was a very physical kind of humor. In fact, I understand he always had to have bodyguards because some guys on the street didn't think it was funny when he cut their tie off, you know. So if somebody didn't think it was too funny, the big boy stepped in front to tell him that was funny.
And Jerry's got them all bamboozled with his frantic antics.
I am a little Dr. Chauncey Lee.
Dean's got a stack of song hits, and Janet's just the gal to sing them to.
Money, there's a hole in my pocket.
Nice boy, nice boy. On your feet, you phony basset hound.
Wally!
And you keep your hands off of me, you singing quack.
Should I try Bombs Away?
Well, you'd better try something, because in a couple of hours, the whole city of New York is going to be banging at the door, howling for your blood.
Just remember there's the east side and the west side and uptown and down.
Another pair famous for their TV adventures also made a splash on the big screen in 1954. Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz charmed audiences weekly on I Love Lucy, and movie audiences couldn't resist. Their success proved that TV and the movies could get along after all.
It all started when Lucy told me she wanted to spend our honeymoon in a home away from...
Home. Only $1,800, and that's complete, mind you. Everything is included. All this furniture, chairs, sofa, bed, stove, refrigerator, shower bath, everything. Absolutely everything.
Well, it's kind of roomy at that. Wonderful closet space.
Where? That's the living room.
All hilarity breaks loose as we hit the road in a blaze of glorious matrimony.
I introduced Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. We were rehearsing. I was rehearsing with Desi, and Mr. Abbott brought Lucille Ball on the set. And I said, "Hi, Lucy, how are you? And I want you to meet this good-looking guy, Desi Arnaz." And Mr. Abbott, you know, did all the honors. But I really introduced them, and I sort of figured I helped. Whenever I see little Lucy, I always say, "Honey, without me, you wouldn't have met, I mean, you wouldn't be born."
Now listen, everybody, quiet. There's too many people telling him what to do. You're confusing this poor boy. Only one person should give instructions. Take it easy. Slowly. Slowly, that's right. That's right. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Stop! Go!
We're just going along as we please, breezing along with the breeze.
Audrey Hepburn continued to win over audiences with her fragile beauty. After winning an Oscar for her starring debut, she was nominated again for the Billy Wilder comedy Sabrina. Hepburn didn't make it 2 Oscars in a row, but she did continue her success for the rest of the decade and beyond.
It's Sabrina. Isn't it amazing? Would you have recognized her? How do you like those legs now?
David.
Aren't they something?
David, the last pair of legs that was something cost the family $25,000.
Bill Holden stands his engagement party on its ear when he shows up with Sabrina instead of his fiancée.
Oh, Sabrina, Sabrina, where have you been all my life?
Right over the garage.
And when Humphrey Bogart kisses her in the moonlight, look what happens to him.
It's all in the family.
She's got them both in a spin, but only one can win. And even the board of directors can't head off the explosion when these two meet head on.
Now, how about that, gentlemen?
That's enough, David.
Well, I thought it was common knowledge about you and Sabrina.
Another Best Actress nominee for 1954 was Judy Garland. She had watched her box office appeal fade as personal problems mounted. A Star Is Born wasn't just a hit, it was Judy Garland's comeback, and some say her finest hour.
She was incredible. I mean, there was nobody like Judy Garland. She was late sometime coming on the set, and unfortunately at that time she was having sleeping problems, and they would have to give her some kind of a sleeping pill to get her to sleep, and then they'd have to give her some kind of pill to wake her up because she was so groggy, and she got hooked on drugs, and that's how that whole thing started with her. It was so heartbreaking because here's this girl with this great voice, this great, wonderful personality, who was just one of a kind, and innocently, she destroyed herself, literally. It was the beginning of the end, I think.
You want to have bells that will ring. You want to have songs that will sing. You want your sky of baby blue. You gotta have me go with you. For it started many years ago when I was born in a trunk in the Princess Theater in Pocatello.
Director-producer Otto Preminger courted controversy when he updated the opera Carmen. The new songs were fine, but the all-black cast caused some trouble. Although the film didn't play well everywhere in the country, it was seen as a triumph.
Brought to the screen by Otto Preminger, who produced and directed such hits as Laura and The Moon is Blue. With the original Bizet music that made Carmen one of the most popular scores in the world. With a cast of show world favorites starring Harry Belafonte, Dorothy Dandridge, Pearl Bailey, Olga James, Joe Adams. With a new modern story of the exciting people and colorful places of America.
What's mine's yours, Joey. And that goes right down the line.
You take us to Chicago. Show us a good time. What we got to do for it?
Don't ask him that now, honey. Let's get to Chicago first. So you run out on me. Sure. We can give you a better time than I can. Fancy clothes. Swell company. The whole works. Husky Miller's latest woman. Only that ain't the way it's going to be. I swear, let no man take you away from me.
How you gonna stop me?
I'll show you.
When your lover decides to fly, there ain't no door that you can close. She just picks you a quick goodbye and flicks the salt from a tail and goes. If you beat out that trouble drum, beat out old trouble drum, beat out old...
Stand up and fight until you hear the bell. Stand toe to toe, trade blow for blow. Keep punching till you make your punches tell. Show that crowd what you know.
Dorothy Dandridge, a stunning beauty, starred in the title role. She was fantastic, becoming the first African-American woman ever nominated for Best Actress Academy Award. Dandridge would not light up the screen for much longer, though. Despite a wealth of talent and stunning looks, her film career didn't take off, and she met a sad end in 1965. Another troubled sex symbol had the world at her fingertips. Following her breakthrough year in 1953, Marilyn Monroe continued her winning ways with Robert Mitchum down a river of no return.
The fever, ooh, the fever, but not for gold in the ground. I want the title to something vital that I can throw my fences around.
I met her in the early 50s. I was going to the Actors Studio, attending it regularly, and one day I went in, I had a scene to do, and I was very nervous because Lee Strasberg could be a monster if you didn't, you know your lines and do your thing. So I thought, I'm going to stop off at this little bar. It was right there by the studio, and I'm going to have a drink and finish off my lines. Like, you really need a drink when you're acting. So I walk in, I look around, I said, I'm not going to sit by that guy, they're going to distract me. Here's a girl sitting here, she had black hair, horn-rimmed glasses, looked, naive, I'll sit next to her. So I did, and she said, are you an actress? And I said, yes. She said, are you doing your scene today? Are you at the studio? And I said, yes. She said, would you like me to help you with your lines? And I said, why not? So we had a drink, we had a couple of wines, she helped me with my lines, and I said, I gotta go, it's time. I said, I have to go to the ladies' room, so we go in there. I go to John, I come out, and I look around, I see this blonde in there, and I go, I wonder what happened to my little friend. She said her name was Norma. I wonder what happened to my little friend. So I thought, oh, well, I guess she went ahead without me. I go out the door, and she said, Jeannie. And I look back, and she did it in the Marilyn Monroe voice, and I go, no, I don't believe this. We became really close friends and remained that way. Now, we weren't together all the time because I was working, I was golfing, I was in Vegas, I was here, I was there, but we were on the phone together all the time, and it was a very nice relationship. And I'm sure that because I became friendly with her without knowing who it was, made her feel a lot more secure because she did not trust women. As, it's hard for beauties to trust. And usually beautiful women will pick other beautiful women, choose other beautiful women to be with. And we had a lot of fun together. We did a lot of crazy things. We even went to the movies, by the way, in our mink coats with nothing on underneath.
Love is a traveler on the river of no return.
Humphrey Bogart also found himself making waves in The Caine Mutiny, an adaptation of the gripping play and novel by Herman Wouk. The film won Bogart rave reviews as the paranoid Captain Queeg. It was the latest in a long line of unforgettable characters.
Just keep in mind that I and the boys is candidates for hanging. Well, that may be, but I've got the fork.
What do you want for Sam?
I don't buy and sell human beings.
That's too bad. That's Casablanca's leading commodity.
There's death a dozen times over down the river.
You promised.
Well, I'm taking my promise back.
All the color, all the excitement, all the great moments which made this book so memorable have been captured on the screen. You will see the Strawberry investigation. You will see the stolen weekend at Yosemite. You will see the Yellowstone incident. You will see the unforgettable victory party at the hotel. You will see the famous court-martial. And you will see one of the greatest thrills in all screen history, the Typhoon.
We have to maneuver for the safety of the ship. Mr. Merrick, if you question my decisions once more, I'll order you off this bridge. Captain, I'm sorry, but you're a sick man. I'm relieving you as captain of this ship under Article 180.
Bogart would receive another Oscar nomination for his role. But he would lose to the man he beat back in 1951, Marlon Brando. With his fourth consecutive Best Actor nomination, Brando would finally take home the gold for On the Waterfront.
Do it to him before he does it to you. What do you want?
Your gun.
We got the baddest piers and the baddest harbor in the world. Everything moves in and out, we take our cut.
Come on, I better get you home. There's too many guys around here with only one thing in their mind. Am I going to see you again?
What for? I really don't know.
Ah, come on. Come on.
Edie. Father, who'd want to kill Joey? Who'd want to kill Joey?
Well, listen, you know who the pistols are. You're going to keep still until they cut you down one by one?
Get a doctor!
Stay away from me!
The award for Best Supporting Actress will be made by the Best Supporting Actor winner of last year, Mr. Frank Sinatra, right here.
Bob, if you'll forgive me, I'd rather not make any jokes. I'd like to take this seriously, and, of course, last year this spot proved to be a kind of a turning point in my life, and so with a lot of gratitude, Mr. Miller, may I have the envelope? In New York, the winner is Eva Marie.
I may have the baby right here. But I would love to thank Elia Kazan, and Sam Spiegel, Marlon Brando, Carl Malden, Boris Kaufman, all the longshoremen. Thank you.
Co-star Rod Steiger made quite an impression in the film as well. He remembers getting the role that made his screen career.
Elia Kazan said, "What the hell did you do on Sunday?" The director. I said, "I don't know, we did this show." He said, "Well, that's all I hear." Marty was a big break for me. Elia Kazan said, "You go see Bud Schulberg, and if he likes you, you read the taxi scene in Waterfront, and if he likes you, you can play Marlon Brando's brother." Well, I almost fell over. So Marty was a very good, was a big break for me.
Brando also raised hell as a tough hoodlum in The Wild One, a film banned in England for 14 years. Parents everywhere worried that Brando's cool might be a bad influence on their kids. They were right. His leather jacket and motorcycle made him an icon for disillusioned rebels everywhere. Teenagers flocked to The Wild One, despite outraged citizen groups calling the film obscene.
Johnny, remember the night? The first time I went out scrambling with the rebels. Remember?
What do you want me to do? Send you some flowers? What's the matter, Kathy? I was only trying to...
The most dynamic, exciting young actor of the age, from power to pathos. Nobody ever been like him. The Wild One, which is about those motorcyclists who took over that town in Northern California, way ahead probably its time. I'd like to say I knew what we were doing. I didn't. But the film was banned in England and banned in about 20 other places as disturbing and upsetting to the youth of the nation. And so we didn't gross too much with it.
We got this town on a rope.
Get to work on these boys. Anybody bring a gun for me?
Yeah, here's one.
Phone's dead. You better send somebody for the militia.
But not all American teens loved Brando. Plenty rushed instead to see the first in a long line of giant insect movies that would swarm into theaters during the 1950s.
I tell you, gentlemen, science has agreed that unless something is done and done quickly, man, as the dominant species of life on Earth, will be extinct within a year.
We may be witnesses to a biblical prophecy come true, and there shall be destruction and darkness come up in creation, and the beast shall reign over the earth.
As the desert erupts with a grim battle for survival, here is a fear-frenzied moment of suspense as mankind totters before a thing that multiplies faster than it can be killed. Here is a desperate plunge into the black depths of the earth
where human courage challenges the brute force, the slicing jaws, the poison fangs that guard the subterranean nest where the beast spawns its terrible progeny.
To all units, condition red, drain 267 is the target area. Repeat, condition red, drain 267 is the target area.
Is there any type of gas we could use?
No, we can't take a chance. It might poison the whole city.
Menace also waited under the water. One popular monster movie would be shot in 3D, even as that fad was losing popularity.
No.
What was it? Science didn't know, but dedicated scientists were willing to risk their lives to find out.
This lungfish, the bridge between fish and the land animal. This one was a failure. It hasn't changed in millions of years. But here we have a clue to an answer.
Starring Richard Carlson, grimly adventuring underwater in the depths of the mighty Amazon. Lovely Julia Adams, her beauty a lure even to the man-beast from the dawn of time. With Richard Denning.
Star Richard Denning remembers uncomfortable conditions for the creature from the Black Lagoon.
That was mostly shot right at the studio. And it was in January, and San Fernando Valley can be very cold at 1 o'clock in the morning in January. So that's where we were shooting, mostly on the Universal back lot, and I think the set is still there. I was fascinated again with the creature and his, and I think, was it you that told me there were two that played the creatures?
Riku Browning.
Yeah, but of course he was always in his creature thing when I'd see him, and I was never sure what. All I know is I was really sorry for him, because when it was hot in the day, and then he had that damn suit on, and we'd all be hot, and he's in that trying to work, you know, and anything above surface. And then when he was in the water, he'd get wet, and then I think, well, maybe he's warmer than we are, because we'd have the wind machine on us and all wet.
You'll see the most amazing underwater photography that the screen has ever known. In this strangest of all science fiction adventures.
Four men dead so far.
We're staying until we get, or until somebody else gets killed.
The creature from the Black Lagoon proved a smash, spawning 2 sequels and 1 more legendary monster from Universal Studios. Another 1954 hit was filmed in 3D, but only briefly released in the format. Most saw the film in a normal, flat version. It seemed 3D's brief moment at the top had passed. Dial M for Murder was a hit anyway, proving the Hitchcock touch never failed.
The New York Times called it tingling with excitement.
The Detroit News said it's the best crime play in years.
The London Daily Mail headlined, "A murder thriller with a difference."
The New York Daily Mirror wrote,
It holds your attention like a vice.
Where's the nearest police station?
What could you tell them?
I should simply tell them that you're trying to blackmail me into murdering your wife.
And this man is to be your murder weapon for the perfect crime. And you, Margot, you've been living dangerously, too dangerously. A married woman with a two-party line to your affections. And Mark, ironic, isn't it? That in this design for death, you should be selected to be the perfect alibi for the murder of the woman you love.
Are you ever going to tell me about us?
No. I couldn't possibly tell him. Not now.
There is evidence, however, that he was blackmailing you.
Blackmail? Yes, I'm afraid it's true, Tony.
And you suggest that he came in by the window, and we know that he came in by that door.
But he can't have come in that way. That door was locked.
You could have let him in.
Hello? Hello?
Hitchcock's other 1954 production was an even bigger success. Rear Window was the 5th highest grossing movie of the year, and it gained Hitch an Oscar nomination for Best Director. The film received 3 other Oscar nominations as well. Today, some consider it the greatest film Alfred Hitchcock ever made.
This is the apartment of a man named Jeffries, a news photographer whose beat used to be the world. Right now, his world has shrunk down to the size of this window. He's been watching the people across the way. Nobody seems to pull their blinds during a hot spell like this. He knows a lot about them by now. Too much, perhaps. For instance, down there on the 2nd floor, the woman pacing about. He calls her Miss Lonely Hearts. So lonely that even death seems like a friend. These are the newlyweds on a honeymoon no one will ever forget. He calls her Miss Hearing Aid, an artist of a very odd and strange art. The songwriter who plays the same melody over and over again. A genius or insane? This is the traveling salesman and his invalid wife. Out of their arguments and nagging comes a weird kind of love. Miss Torso, the body beautiful. That is, viewed from a safe distance.
Those are just a few of my neighbors. First, I watched them just to kill time, but then I couldn't take my eyes off them, just as you won't be able to.
And you won't be able to take your eyes off the glowing beauty of Grace Kelly, who shares the heart and curiosity of James Stewart in this story of a romance shadowed by the terror of a horrifying secret.
Brando rebelling against the world. Judy Garland singing her heart out.
Shrunk in the Princess Theater.
3D faded away, but CinemaScope continued to shine. 1954 saw the movies expand on screens like never before. And Hollywood was, as always, leading the way.
It was a terrific year for movies. I'm Tab Hunter. Join me next time for more of The Best of Hollywood.